Right now at 5 on this Monday night here on WHAS 11 News, closing arguments. Defense attorneys for Brooks Houck telling the jury in the Crystal Rogers case they looked for 10 years for a murder weapon. They found nothing. We are getting closer to the end of the trial of the decade underway in Kentucky.
Plus, the death toll is rising in Texas with many young children staying at a summer camp. We are taking a closer look at the timeline of the storm and just how fast the water rose.
And new information in the case against Misty Null. She pleaded guilty to charges of tax evasion and is heading to prison. So why is the judge now saying he wants to schedule a trial? Right now at 5 on WHAS 11 News. But first, if you've looked out your window tonight, folks, you've seen it all around you. So we've got some heavy thunderstorms just popping up in this afternoon heat and coming down in different neighborhoods across Kentuckiana.
Yeah, rain really coming down out there right now. Chief Meteorologist Mallory Snell joins us now. And Mallory, a minute ago when you showed us that traffic cam, you could see the wet streets out there.
Oh yeah, please be cautious for that evening commute. We have some heavy downpours. Thankfully, nothing severe, but as we know this time of year, these can bring torrential downpours to certain parts of town. At this point, it is tracking east pretty quickly. The storm rolling through the Louisville metro now into eastern Jefferson County, primarily east of even the Gene Snyder right now. So Mount Washington up to LaGrange, Oldham County, seeing some heavy rainfall off to the east and northeast into Newcastle. Also Eminence getting some heavy downpours here soon. Big picture view, this really stretches from up to Cincinnati down through Hardin County. E-Town, you're about to get some pockets of heavy downpours as well. As I mentioned, nothing severe, but gusty winds and lightning can make an impact, of course, on your day, along with the lowered visibility that we are seeing. I will say this is cooling things off. We were at 92 at the top of the 4 o'clock hour. We're now down to 77 at the Louisville International Airport. So we have some rain cooled air rolling through here. Best chance for a scattered storm really within the next hour or two. And then our radar becomes a lot quieter later on this evening and tonight. We'll talk much more about our daily storm chances coming up in our 7-day forecast.
Thank you so much, Mallory. Jury instructions and closing arguments began today in the trial of Brooks Houck and Joseph Lawson in the Crystal Rogers case.
The defense team giving their final thoughts to the jury for much of this day. And right now the prosecution is giving its closing to the jury. Shay McAllister and photojournalist Jessica Farley have been there in the courtroom every day of this trial.
And the defense attorneys were first to present closing arguments today. Shay, what case did they make to the jury?
Well, they both had very different points to make. First, we heard from Robert Boyd. He represents Joseph Lawson, and he said simply that Joseph Lawson is not involved in this. He said he had nothing to do with the murder. He had nothing to do with the Houck family farm. He had nothing to do with Crystal Rogers' car. And he went on to say this: to believe this theory, you have to believe that Brooks Houck would trust the important job of moving the car to a severe alcoholic and his alcoholic drug user son. That sophisticated businessman did not hire these fools for that job. His was about an hour long this morning, and then Brian Butler, Brooks Houck's attorney, went ahead and took his spot to speak to the jurors. He worked to convince the jurors that this case has been built on guesses and assumptions. He said the police were giving marching orders early on to get Brooks Houck, and he called the prosecution's case a convoluted mess, saying the timelines are all different and they all contradict each other. Doug and Connie?
Well, Shay, as you pointed out, the prosecutor always gets to have the final word in the criminal trial. Some of the big takeaways that you got from Shane Young's closings.
Well, it's important to say, Doug, he's still doing them right now. I stepped out on a break just a few minutes ago to give you this report, but he's right in the middle of his closing. So I'm anxious to get back in there and hear what he has to say. What he's doing is working through a timeline that started a couple of days before Crystal went missing, with this conversation between Rosemary Houck and Danny Singleton, where Rosemary Houck is accused of asking Danny to find someone to help get rid of Crystal. And then he goes through almost hour by hour on July the 3rd. He talks about July the 4th, the 5th. He says that Brooks Houck was lying because he knew that ultimately the truth would end him here. He said that Brooks Houck very well knew what he was doing. It was not a surprise date. It was a surprise ending, is what he actually called it. And then he ended up saying that if you, the jury, don't believe that Crystal made it home on July the 3rd, then you must find Brooks guilty.
And Shay, the jurors have their instructions now. What charges will they be considering when they start deliberation tomorrow?
Absolutely, Connie. So here's what it will look like. Joseph Lawson will have the choice, the jurors will have the choice between conspiracy to commit murder, facilitation to commit murder, and tampering with physical evidence. That's exactly what Steve Lawson's jury instructions looked like. As for Brooks Houck, it'll be 1, murder, 2, complicity to murder, 3, murder, principal or accomplice, and then complicity to tampering with physical evidence. The judge did give them instructions that said exactly, if you believe that Brooks Houck did this, then you find him guilty for this. Of course, they can find them not guilty on all of them. Doug and Connie.
Remember, follow the Crystal Rogers case throughout the day on our dedicated blog about the trial. It's right on the front page of WHAS11.com. Reporting from our team in Bowling Green, there in the courtroom, and WHAS11 digital journalist Joseph Garcia. And then I invite you to join us later tonight at 9 on the free WHAS11 Plus app for our 30-minute special report about today's closing arguments. I'll be joined by Shay, Alexandra Goldberg, and WHAS11 News legal analyst Nick Mudd. Download the WHAS11 Plus app on your TV and watch for free at 9 tonight. And of course, Nick Mudd will be joining us at 5:30 in just a few minutes.
Shively police are investigating the deaths of 2 young women shot after 1 this morning in the 3200 block of Kingswood Way. They have a suspect now. Here he is, LaBradford Ward, who has a history of domestic violence. Ian Hardwick reports on the search and how police believe this was a targeted case of domestic violence.
I noticed all the kids was coming out, but I didn't see Shantia.
Rosella Caples thought she heard fireworks out her window until she saw police lights.
I know I'm gonna miss her.
That's her neighbor, 26-year-old Santia Simmons. They lived across the street from one another.
I didn't know her friend.
That friend, 22-year-old Amaya Cox, was shot and killed alongside Simmons, police believe, by this man, LaBradford Ward. Shively police responded to the double murder around 1:30 in the morning at this house on Kingswood Way, which more than 12 hours after the shooting happened was full of friends and family mourning the women lost.
2 women? Oh my God. It's just a shock. She just hooked up with the wrong guy.
Shively police say Ward, aged 35, seen in this traffic stop in May, pulled the trigger. He drives a red 2021 Ford Mustang. The department has a warrant for his arrest, seeking charges for possession of a handgun by a convicted felon, murder, and domestic violence murder. In 2023, he pleaded guilty to second-degree strangulation, fourth-degree domestic violence assault, and violating a protective order.
And that just further underscores the point that these types of incidences do escalate.
Shively PD Detective Jordan Brown said the deaths were not random, calling it a targeted attack.
And I can never fully say what his mental state is at this point or how he would react if approached. So we always advise the public to be cautious.
But he's asking for the public's help in finding Ward. Caples and her son can hardly believe Simmons won't be walking by their house anymore.
She had just started her life, trying to do things right and take her a grandmother.
A caregiver who's gone, along with her friend. In Shively, Ian Hardwick, WHAS 11, on your side.
And Ward drives a red 2021 Ford Mustang with Kentucky plates ending in 849. Anyone who sees Ward is advised not to approach and is instead encouraged to contact Shively PD's anonymous tip line. That's at the bottom of your screen right now, 502-930-2SPD.
Right here tonight, it's a new twist in southern Indiana today. After last week, the estranged wife of ex-sheriff Misty Null accepted a plea deal. Judge Larry Medlock is now looking to hold Misty in contempt of court and possibly throw out her plea deal for comments she made in a TV interview. Yeah,
the wife of former Sheriff Jamie Null was sentenced to 18 months in prison last week, but the case could now go to trial. Focus reporter Travis Breeze is here to explain. Travis.
Well, Doug and Connie, Judge Medlock reminded Misty last week that when she was admitting guilt, she was saying she knowingly and willingly committed each of the 10 felonies she was pleading guilty to. However, minutes after court got out, a Louisville TV station published an interview with Misty in which the judge feels she claimed ignorance of her crimes. Medlock wrote in his order on Monday, quote, "This court cannot find an individual guilty if they profess to maintain their innocence." The judge is now asking for a hearing date to potentially throw out her plea deal and set this case for trial. This is what Misty said in court last Thursday about the ignorance to her husband's actions.
I have a great amount of remorse for my ignorance that not only led me to here, but led my children here as well.
As you should be.
Misty's attorney, Bart McMahon, has not responded to me for comment at this time. The judge also has not set a date for this contempt of court hearing at this time. Now, last week, several TV stations were offered sit-down interviews with Mrs. Null. Jamie Null's attorney offered one to a different reporter at our station, but she couldn't do it because of another commitment. When I asked if I could have the interview, it was taken off the table for WHAS TV. In the studio, Travis Breeze, WHAS 11 on your side.
All right, Travis, thank you so much for that story. Jeffersonville police believe a weekend shooting that ended in a crash stemmed from a domestic dispute. It happened before midnight Saturday around Presidential Place and Washington Way. Police said the victim, 28-year-old William Brown, was fleeing from the shooter when he crashed into a tree. Brown was taken to the hospital to be treated for his injuries. Officers later arrested 22-year-old Zachary Jackson. He faces multiple charges, including attempted murder.
Right here tonight, another story we're following for you. A man has been arrested in Charlestown, Indiana, in connection with a multi-state fraud scheme targeting the elderly, allegedly stealing up to 6 figures. The 36-year-old faces several federal charges, including theft, fraud, conspiracy, and money laundering. He's accused of scamming elderly citizens across Kentucky, Indiana, and Ohio, and several other states into withdrawing large amounts of money from their accounts and then handing it over to him. Search warrants for his vehicle and luggage revealed a large amount of cash. Right now, investigators believe he has received over $400,000. They are working to identify the victims, and the case remains active and ongoing.